We are right at the beginning of the Bitcoin gold rush. That's what Nakamoto CEO David Bailey is saying now, and he's giving exciting insights here into his new Bitcoin strategy, being in contact with major hedge funds and nation-states, all of whom are ready to allocate massive amounts into Bitcoin. He says the path to Valhalla is now set, so get ready. Wall Street Online is warning about a potential Bitcoin gamma squeeze that could be coming our way. It's made very clear here. The options market is betting on 300,000 US dollars. Is the gamma squeeze coming now? And we have asset managers who are now saying one after another, man, oh man, people are buying up everything here. The rich people, the whales, the big players, they all want to buy Bitcoin like there's no tomorrow. But first, I want to see all of you hit that like button. Anyone who doesn't hit the like button now is intentionally making sure the Bitcoin price doesn't get pushed further, and that these messages don't get shared anymore. So make sure to hit like right now and subscribe if you haven't already. Only bears like Peter Schiff or Maurice Hofkin aren't hitting like right now. And we're also going to take a look at the statements, starting with David Bailey. But first, let's dive into why the sentiment is so bullish at the moment. Now we actually have an Australian senator here, just some random senator from Australia. And he's saying, Bitcoin will reach 1 million. What's really special about this? He used to be a Bitcoin critic. Now he's saying Bitcoin will hit 1 million, while BlackRock is pumping huge amounts of dollars into the market. So while BlackRock is pouring massive amounts of money into the market, probably meaning they're buying Bitcoin, you can really see how the sentiment is shifting, with more and more people who used to be critics now joining the bull camp. And now here comes the real bombshell. There's an article here in the Wall Street Online magazine warning about this. Here, options traders are even betting on 300,000 US dollars of Bitcoin, betting on extreme price explosions, and yes, this is happening more and more often. The bets on extreme price explosions are piling up. Is the big gamma squeeze coming now? And then it's clearly laid out here. Bullish market positions. A gamma squeeze could drive Bitcoin prices even higher. Here's a report. The US has done 5. Oh, that's something else here. Here, options traders, 300,000 US dollars. And I've already explained to you in a previous video how exactly a gamma squeeze works here. When suddenly options traders can no longer really cover their options, the price shoots up. And they basically get caught off guard, kind of like in a short squeeze. And this can lead to massive price surges upward that can happen very, very quickly. It's also mentioned here that this shows us the market positioning is heating up in anticipation of new all-time highs, and that once we're in uncharted price territory, there's no telling how high Bitcoin can go. So it's not just like before, when it was only YouTubers saying things like, hey, be bullish, we've got good prospects, and so on. No, these days it's actually, let's say, serious people in suits writing articles, saying things like, yeah, Bitcoin at 300,000, no problem. We could easily reach that in a relatively short time. By the way, here's the next guy in a suit saying Bitcoin is going to 1 million. Go ahead and drop a like for the guy in the suit, who's even more bullish than the half-naked guy just chilling here in El Salvador. And now we've got the next mega price driver. This is David Bailey, and he wants his company to accumulate more Bitcoin than Michael Saylor has. He clearly wants to compete with Michael Saylor and his strategy. He says, you know, MicroStrategy and all, that was a pretty cool start. But now they want to really go all out and take things to the next level. They want to duplicate what MicroStrategy is doing in every global region. And he was just interviewed here at Bitcoin Magazine. And what he says here is truly shocking. He talks about the road to Valhalla. And those aren't my words. I'm quoting him directly here. And just listen to how he sees the road to Valhalla. Why things could really get intense for Bitcoin now. And for all the bratwurstors and schnitzelspetters out there who spend their time following the news, binge-watching Marcus Lands day and night, not understanding what's happening with Bitcoin, still thinking their lives suck, that everything keeps getting worse. And everything is just getting dumber. Blah, blah, blah. They're definitely going to get caught off guard here. When Bitcoin suddenly, well, not literally overnight, but when Bitcoin eventually jumps to 200, 300, 400, 500,000, a million, 2 million, 3 million, and so on. Check out these statements from David Bailey. Absolutely insane.
You know, I talked to a sovereign wealth fund today, actually, like just before getting onto this call, and like they knew about MicroStrategy, but at a very high level. Like they knew that they were buying Bitcoin and they knew that they'd been performing extremely well, but they didn't really understand how it worked, what they were doing, like, and like now that they have a better understanding of that, they want to bite at the market. And so I think, you know, it was interesting. Like actually when Cantor did their announcement with SoftBank and with Jack on 21 and Tether, like the first reaction that actually some investors had was like, oh no, like, is that going to cannibalize interest in Nakamoto? Actually, it did the opposite. Actually, I think we probably raised an extra $150 million for our financing that came in through investors that were like, wait, what? SoftBank's doing this? Like wow, like we need to get some action on some of these deals. And I just had hedge funds calling I had never heard of. I'd never talked to them before. You know, some of these hedge funds have 5 billion, 10 billion, 20 billion AUM, and they're just writing 10-minute phone calls and they're writing a $10 million check.
Do you guys know what's going on here? He said that today he talked to a sovereign wealth fund on the phone. So it was probably a few days ago. Sovereign wealth fund just means that, yes, a state fund was on the phone with him. And he said, yeah, we're watching what MicroStrategy is doing. We don't fully understand it yet. Like, we get it to a certain extent, but of course we're still buying it. We're still interested in the whole thing. We have to put money into this. Or maybe they didn't say that exactly yet, but in any case, they're watching it very closely. And it's really crazy that Michael Saylor is being closely watched by, yes, sovereign wealth funds. And they want to be part of the performance here too, so sooner or later, they're all going to buy in. And now comes the main point, which is the second thing he said here. Because now there are all these other competitors and so on, who are doing something, for example. For example, there's 21 Capital, Jack Malice with SoftBank, Tether, and Kendall Fitzgerald, who are working together and also want to develop a strategy like MicroStrategy or like Nakamoto here. These are all Bitcoin treasury companies. And now comes the real kicker. At first, he thought it might be competition for him. So at first, he was a bit worried. Like, oh shit, maybe this could be competition. But when the hedge funds started to realize, damn, now 21 Capital is doing something like this too, they basically wrote him blank checks and said, hey, do you need a little more cash for your company? I think this was still the ATM, the offering that was basically flying under the radar, not yet public with Nakamoto, but where you could probably only invest your private equity or something like that. So they basically just wrote blank checks because they were like, oh shit, if Kendall Fitzgerald is getting involved, if SoftBank is getting involved, then we absolutely have to get in even faster. And now the bidding war is happening here, not at the retail level, but at the institutional level. And that's exactly what I explained to you before, the banana psychology, or the illiterate psychology of most people who don't look at whether Bitcoin has fundamental properties that might be great, like censorship resistance, being limited to 21 million, and so on. No, a lot of people don't look at that. Instead, they look at what Schnitzel Peter around them is doing. What is Bratwurst Horst around me doing? Are they buying Bitcoin? Those are my two best buddies, the ones I hang out with at the bar all day. As long as they're just busy eating bratwurst and dumplings and drinking beer and so on, I'm not going to do anything either. As long as that's the case, I'm not getting into Bitcoin. I'll just complain along with them about how bad the world is and how there's so much bad stuff happening in the news again. But if they start buying Bitcoin now, then of course a kind of envy sets in, a sort of Darwinism. Then you see, okay, now he has Bitcoin. And if things potentially escalate, then he would be way richer than me. That means maybe he can't hang out with me anymore, because suddenly he's driving around in a limbo, and I can't drive around in a limbo. So now, just like Dumpling Peter and the Schnitzel Host and so on, I also have to start buying Bitcoin. And this is the retail level. But now, what's happening here hasn't happened yet at the retail level. It's happening at the hedge fund level, at the level of pension funds, at the level of state treasuries. And they're outbidding each other because they understand here that they have to be part of the race. If I'm not part of the race, then other countries will overtake me, other hedge funds will overtake me. And there's this kind of competitive pressure, especially at the hedge fund level, at the institutional level, and here also at the national level. Donald Trump always says it explicitly, too. We don't want to end up behind China. We want to be ahead of China. And that's intense.
I really think we're in the part of the process where like the idea has like is validated in the eyes of respected investors, but like capital is really just starting to be deployed in a meaningful way. And this has been primarily retail driven up until this point with a couple institutional investors that have gone heavy. But now it seems like every investor wants exposure to this. So yeah, I don't know. I feel like we're in the stage of the market where like a rising tide is lifting all ships, and not just Bitcoin going up is helping everyone, which it is, but also each of these companies individually performing well is helping everyone. Metaplanet, I mean, I don't know if you saw Metaplanet today. It's up like 40%. It's unbelievable. And so like every investor who's seeing that is like, okay, well, what are the comps? What other opportunities are there? Because I want to find the next Metaplanet. So yeah, I mean, it's exciting. It's exciting. It feels like a gold rush right now. But
yeah, it really feels like a gold rush. That's also what Michael Saylor said. I think by 2034, 99% of all Bitcoin will have been mined. And until then, the Bitcoin gold rush continues. Or was it 2034? Or was it 2030? I don't even remember anymore. Some year when 99% of all Bitcoin will have been mined. But I think, yeah, I just don't know anymore. Go ahead and write in the comments by what your 99% of all Bitcoin will be mined. In any case, he also says that the momentum is lifting up all the companies right now, all the treasury companies. It's lifting up a Metaplanet, a strategy, and so on. And of course, pension funds, sovereign wealth funds, and so on. They're all benefiting from it. And in this frenzy, it's obviously very, very easy to make money here. And it gets harder when we eventually enter a bear market again, which will definitely happen. And there will always be bigger corrections, 30, 40, 50, even up to 70% corrections are possible, although these kinds of corrections become less likely as more and more big players get involved. And he's not the only one talking like this. We actually have Tiger 21 here, a major wealth investment firm. And here we have Michael Sonnenfeld. And in this interview, he basically says the same thing. But here he mentions that the very, very wealthy people, the whales and so on, the high net worth individuals, are really keen on Bitcoin. And why are they so keen on Bitcoin? For exactly the same reason I told you about earlier. Darwinism. There's Andy involved. One rich guy in his limbo, the limbo host, says to Ferrari Peter, "Hey, I've got Bitcoin." And then Ferrari Peter gets jealous and says, "Oh, I need to get in on that too." And then Jetski Jürgen or someone like that joins in as well. And then he says, "Hey, I saw that you both have Bitcoin now. Now I need to get some Bitcoin too, especially since I noticed you both got even richer. I had a few $100 million here, but now you both have reached billionaire status. You both became billionaires thanks to Bitcoin. I can't just have a few million here. I need to become a billionaire too, so I have to get involved as well. And if you just have your 70-30 portfolio, you're simply not going to make any big leaps here. And that's why, just like in the bar between the schnitzel crowd and the beer crowd, of course, this is all meant to be funny. It's not a personal attack on anyone. Just like at the hedge fund level, just like at the state level, and just like here with the high net worth individuals, we have FOMO, and people really are that crazy. But it doesn't matter whether we're talking about rich people, poor people, people in the bar, hedge funds, or sovereign wealth funds. Everyone is affected by the same mass psychological effects in the background. We really need to understand that. You can look it up if you want. Gustave Le Bon, The Crowd, a study of the popular mind, explains how crowds don't respond to rational arguments, but only to repetition and slogans. That's why you never see Donald Trump making any real arguments. He just says things like Bitcoin good, Bitcoin to the moon, stocks bad, EU good, EU bad, or something like that. He never really makes any arguments. He just throws out slogans, repeating them over and over, using really simple, childlike language. And that goes straight into the collective subconscious of people. That's how people are manipulated. And people are just as easily influenced that way. I don't even want to completely exclude myself from that, to be honest. You always think you're super smart, but often you catch yourself just going along with the herd like everyone else. I mean, I'm always someone who likes to step out of the herd. That's also why we have this channel. So we don't just do what everyone else is doing, just blindly following the mainstream. Everyone is chasing after Lady Gaga. And if Lady Gaga says, "Now everyone buys stocks," then everyone jumps into stocks. Bitcoin isn't really mainstream yet, so you really have to try to break down and see through the mainstream narratives here. That's why we're here together, analyzing all of this.
And eventually buying $1 of Bitcoin is going to create $2 of value in the underlying asset on top of the premium that is applied to that asset. So it's like, I feel like we're on a preordained path to Valhalla here with this trade.
So he's saying here that the trade with all these Bitcoin treasury companies and so on is the path to Valhalla. If you can basically create $2 of value from $1 of underlying asset. Of course, sometimes there's a premium, or $3, or in some cases Metaplanet has a premium of 20, meaning $1 turns into $20, and then you can improve the stock again, buy more Bitcoin, and so on. Of course, it kind of feels like printing money, even though it's not exactly the same. But this part about going to Valhalla is basically about catapulting these Bitcoin treasury companies way up. And of course, Bitcoin will benefit from that as well. So it's absolutely wild what's happening here. Let me know in the comments below if you're ready to go to Valhalla. Have you already packed your things? If not, I'll put a link below to 21 Bitcoin, where you can easily and securely buy Bitcoin. Because if we're heading to Valhalla, you want to make sure you have enough Bitcoin with you. You don't want to end up with the losers, or be on the wrong side of history here. This is not financial advice. Do whatever you want. But if you buy Bitcoin here at 21 Bitcoin, you can save up to 20% on fees with the code Bitcoin Hotel, up to 20% off the purchase fees. That's how you have to say it. And folks, we'll see each other. Peace out.